What's up, friends? This is Movie Recap. Today the movie is Alfie, from 2004. This is a movie about who we think at first is an A player. An English man in North America with great expectations. We start at his place, where he wakes up and tells us that he doesn't let almost anyone enter his house. He says that he almost never spends the night at home. He is a seducer who says he likes women because of their breasts, their asses, and their face. Just that, it seems. Alfie is a limo driver, with a bunch of routines and a life revolving woman. He is very good with words and is good at getting what he needs from the women around him, but not always in the best sense, because his judgment is often clouded by his own pee-pee. We learn that Alfie migrated to New York because he had heard that the women in Manhattan were the hottest in the world. He uses his job to meet Dory, a married blonde woman who likes him very much. That is the red flag for him. If a woman starts liking him very much and asks him for things different rather than, he says he just wants to dump them. Right after he leaves Dory, he goes to July's house, a gorgeous brunette, who Alfie says is his semi-regular, and the most similar thing he has as a girlfriend. In her home, he is incapable of making love to her and says that he will compensate her in the morning. He literally had been doing it half-hour earlier and said he just wanted a fresh meal and a place to crash. July asks if there is really something between them, and Alfie hugs her for a while and explains to us that he really doesn't want to compromise because that would mean getting domesticated. She says she loves him, and Alfie replies thank you. The next day, we go with Alfie to where he works, a place where we meet Marlon, his friend from whom we learn was dumped by his girlfriend a while ago. The reason for the breakup is that she wanted kids, while Marlon didn't. Alfie works with Marlon in the limo place, which seems to be owned by an Asian couple. Alfie's plan is to buy the place with Marlon, but he is most interested in dwelling on his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend Lonette. Some women even say hi to Alfie and he pretends he doesn't know them. Later, he went to July's house, and she calls him Alfred. July found a piece of lingerie from the blonde girl that Alfie had left in her thrash. Alfie, who's also thrash, goes back to the bar to chat with Lonette, who owns the bar. They end up alone and start drinking and playing pool. The conversation turns a little hot, and they end up drunk and dancing. Alfie, astonishingly, ends up having an adult nap time with her. He even justifies himself by saying that this would help Lonette and Marlon reconcile. What a guy. The next day he tells us that he was still thinking about Lonette and what happened. Marlon gets to him and asks him what happened with Lonette. Alfie was worried for a while and cornered, but then Marlon said that she returned with him and that he even asked her to marry him. All that on the last night. We see a different Alfie all of a sudden, a sadder Alfie. He goes to July's son's birthday but sees July with her ex-husband there, and finds out he wasn't even expected there. Not even by the birthday boy. Alfie says he needs a new woman and goes to a bar. He explains some of his seduction techniques and ends with two blonde women. Later, he is unable to do it with them and says he feels rare. He even goes to the doctor because he can't get his pee-pee hard. We then learn that he goes to July's house to try to return with her, but she didn't want to. Also, with the tests, Alfie finds out that he has some kind of infection on his noble parts. It's winter now, and Alfie is limping when returning to his home because he had a biopsy down there. At Alfie's place, waiting for him, was Lonette. She says that she needs to speak to Alfie, and she looks worried. The news is that Lonette is pregnant. She decided to go to a clinic and have an abortion, and just then Alfie was starting to repent. Lonette went out of the clinic looking ill, and saying she felt empty. Alfie says he needs some changes in his life but says he'll be fine. He goes for the results of his exams and meets an old dude in the bathroom. They talk because the old guy can't pee, and Alfie waits for him to finish. The old guy told him a story about his dead wife, and how he felt that the purpose in life was to fall in love with someone and live every day as if it was the last. Alfie looks worried. The old guy gives Alfie a card and says to call him whenever he wanted. Out of the clinic, Alfie is euphoric because the results of the tests were negative. He says he has not forgotten that he swore to change his life. How did he start doing it? Well, he was having a carrot and apple juice. He also had his business plan on hand, the one in which he was going to buy the place of the limos with Marlon. New life, a new beginning, Alfie says, as he seduces an older woman who is riding his car along with a man. The couple was buying clothes for the woman, and Alfie got into the store to give his thoughts about her dresses. She says the man is not her husband. Alfie gives her his card at the end and says that his New Year's resolution is to aim higher. Alfie gets to his place of work and finds out that Marlon had moved out with Lonette and that he abandoned their business plan. Alfie was kind of sad because it was Christmas, but he met a girl that caught his attention. He took a few people to a party, smoked a little, and kind of got hooked on the girl right away. The girl invited Alfie to the party, and he ended up doing bam bam in her ham. Alfie even invited the girl to his place during Christmas and New Year's Eve. They were together now for 12 days in an amazing adventure. Alfie describes her as if she was the one, asking himself if she was the girl who was going to get all his attention. Later, this woman broke a glass and Alfie now didn't like her. She was kind of crazy, but Alfie wasn't going to let her go. She was a rebel, broke his rules, and that was exactly why Alfie wasn't able to leave her. She was now living at his place, even painting it. Alfie says some things about how she's perfect, or looks perfect, like a goddess, but since she's not perfect, he doesn't want her. Alfie went to see the older woman he had met earlier in the limo. He went directly to her place, and she offered some absinthe, a really strong drink. He liked her very much because she liked fashion, was stylish, and had unique tastes. The woman says that she had studied Alfie's business plan and that he was smarter than he taught, and also more insecure than what he let the people know. They drink, kiss, and touch each other. Alfie is dizzy but finds out he likes very much the style of the woman. He feels confident in seeing each other again. Later we see Alfie returning to his place with his girlfriend, who left the wall half painted. He woke her up because he wanted to break with her, but she spoke first saying she was sorry for the times she had freaked out and promised to take her medication. Alfie started mumbling and the girl noticed she was being dumped. She packed her things and left, with no apparent destiny. She was alone at night, raining, she grabbed a cab and left. Later, he says he misses Nikki's company, and that maybe he feels some remorse. Then he says that it was just appearance and that appearance wasn't everything. He then went to a cafe where he found July, his old girlfriend. They catch up for a while, stare at each other and Alfie says he felt bad about how everything ended. July said that everything was in the past, and Alfie asked to return with her, almost on his knees. At that moment, another guy arrives and we find out that July is astonished by him. Alfie even asks her at the end to say hello to her son for him. Alfie was brutally jealous. Later, he went to his place of work. His boss, the Asian man, was crying because his wife had left him. This guy is also funny because he spent the entire movie screaming at her at work. I mean, I think I never heard the voice of the woman, and now this guy is crying for her. Alfie asked him for a car and left. He went out of town, into the woods, and showed up at Lonette and Marlon's place. He went there anguished, asking her to forget everything. Alfie hears a baby crying and asks if Lonette and Marlon had one. Lonette said no, she didn't have the abortion, she had the baby. Marlon loved her so much that he accepted everything, but wasn't very happy obviously. Alfie meets his son and says that that was way too much, even for him. Lonette says that Marlon agreed to stay with her, at least for the moment. As he was leaving, Marlon returned home and found Alfie. Alfie tries to say that he didn't want to hurt anybody. Marlon says he knows, and that Alfie ends up hurting people anyway. Alfie drove back but had to stop because was crying and angry. He then said he felt he didn't have any friends, so he called the old dude that he had met in the bathroom earlier. For someone who speaks so much, this guy literally knows only like 10 people. He went to the beach with the old guy and told him how he felt terrible about everything. The old guy said that he was valiant to go there and face the truth, but also that he was a treacherous son of a bitch. The old man asked Alfie what was he going to do then. We see him later going to a flower shop and dressing in a suit. He says it's a special occasion and bought a lot of flowers. Alfie went to Lizzie's place, wanting to invite her for a date the next day. She liked the flowers and admitted that Alfie surprised her. She also noticed something odd in Alfie. Alfie said he wanted to stay, but she said it wasn't a good idea. Alfie knew someone else was in her room and started raging and crying because she was with someone else. He asked her what did he have for her to like him better. She replied that he was younger than Alfie. Alfie was heartbroken and went to the shore to dump the flowers. He said that he wasn't expecting that. He also says that this woman was the only one he was really willing to lower his defenses, and that was exactly who gave him the killing shot. Later, at the pier, we see Dory, the first woman that we met. Alfie says hello to her and tries to explain that he is afraid of commitment, but is unable to. Dory leaves and Alfie says sorry. Alfie doesn't want to commit or get married. He thinks about some of the women he had been with, about how they had done lots for him but he did little in return. Do you agree with this? Do you think Alfie was selfish? Let us know in the comment section. See you at the next one.